Welcome to part one of a simple SSIS example. This is going to be a two-part video, and I just want to lay out the absolute basics for working in the SQL Data Tools / Integration Services environment. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is open SQL Data Tools, and so I will go down to Start, and then I'll go into All Programs. And if I go into SQL Server 2012, I will see SQL Server Data Tools. Now keep in mind, I will have to have installed SQL Server Data Tools when I install SQL Server 2012. If I didn't, just go into Control Panel, go down to SQL Server 2012, right click. You can make a change or add things to it. Just choose that, step through the process, and when you choose your components, go down the checkbox there and choose SQL Server Data Tools. It'll install for a minute, click and hum, and then you'll be back here. Once you get that, you can install SQL Server Data Tools. Notice this is going to use the Visual Studio 2010 integrated shell, and you're going to be working in a Visual Studio environment. So when this opens up, if you've ever worked in Visual Studio, you're going to feel right at home. If you've never worked in Visual Studio, you're going to feel a little bit bewildered. But notice it's asking us, do we want to create a new project or open an old one? I'm going to create a new project. And notice we can choose the business intelligence templates, and we're going to choose an integration services project, and we will call this simple SSIS example. All right, and we're naming our solution, and we'll get into all that a little bit more later maybe, but a solution is a collection of projects, and those are just really kind of namespaces and sections to divide off what's happening. Now, I want to give you just kind of the basic bottom line with how you're going to be thinking and working inside the SQL Data Tools / Integration Services environment. Notice you have a toolbox over here with things that you can do. We have tabs across the top for control flow of all the actions we create. Data flow, these are the individual pieces that make data move around. Parameters, event handlers, package, and we'll take a look at all these a little bit more later on. And over here we have our Solution Explorer. Then down here they have some help. And notice I can click the little push pins and have all these things, move in and out and give me more real estate on the screen if I would like. But for now, I'll just kind of leave these things out here, and we'll have them so that we can see them when we need them. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is I just want to grab the data from one of the tables. We'll do maybe the one of the human resources tables in the AdventureWorks OLTP database, and I want to just pump that data out into a flat file, a text file out on the desktop. Okay, so the first thing I want to do a data flow, so I'm going to grab that and drag it onto the work surface there, and you'll notice that that is going to give me a data flow task. Now I will double click on that, and that will open that data flow environment, and now I can start to build what I want to have happen. Well, the basics here is we always need a source and a destination. So the first thing I want to do is create a source, and I'm going to do it this way. All right, there's a lot of different ways to work in here. I'm going to do it this way because it's generally the easiest to get your head around the first time. I'm going to grab an ADO.NET data source and drop it onto the surface, and I'm going to use this to reach in to the AdventureWorks 2012 database. All right, so notice there's my data source. I'll drag it right up here. I'm going to right click on this and choose Edit. And this gives me all the properties inside there. And notice it says, do you want to look into the connection manager? Well, I can look in there and see if I have any connections already set up. And I don't. And so I will click on New. And then this will tell me, do I have any connections at all that it can see or remember that I've done? Well, there's one, but I don't want to confuse you with that. So I'm going to delete that, and we'll just create our own. Okay. So I'll click on New here. I want to create a connection into whatever source, and I've already said it was an ADO.NET source. And so I'll just put the name of my server here. Now I can click this drop down. It'll try to find them, but it can take a while sometimes. So I'll just put the name of my server, VTCSP. Notice I'm using Windows authentication to connect to that server. And right here I can click this drop down and see the databases that are on that SQL server. And I'm going to choose the AdventureWorks 2012 database because that's the one that has the table that I want to work in. Notice I can click Test Connection, and it connected to the database just fine. and now I can click OK. Then I can click OK again, and now it says OK. So you want to reach into the AdventureWorks 2012 database. You're looking for a table or a view, or do you want to write your own SQL command? Well, we'll do table or view, and so now it will just simply loop through, create me a list of the tables and views, and say which one do you want? Well, I want Human Resources Department. All right, and I can click Preview, and that will let me look into that table and see if that's the one I really want, and I'll assume that it is. Then I'll click OK, and just like that, we have now created a source that will connect into our database. All right, and so that's the first part. We have now created a connection to a data source, and what I'll do is stop right here. This will be the end of part 1. In part 2, we will create our connection to our destination, and then we'll move the data. All right, so join me in part 2, and we'll continue with this simple SSIS example.